Davy Mooney, a celebrated jazz guitarist and associate professor of jazz studies at the University of North Texas, has built a distinguished career as a performer, recording artist, and educator. With 6 albums as a leader, including his latest release, The Word, which comes out January of 2025. Davy's artistry has captivated audiences worldwide, from Japan to Brazil. A PhD graduate from NYU and Thelonious Monk Institute alumnus, he combines his deep academic insight with rich performance experiences alongside jazz legends like Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter. So, Davey, good to see you. Thanks so much for doing this.
My pleasure. Nice to see you and talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as a fellow guitar player, I kind of want to start the conversation with talking about something I observe about you're playing. It's wonderful to watch you play. It has this almost sort of effortless, relaxed quality, but there's also so much joy behind it as well.
Uh-huh.
As jazz musicians, when we're improvising, we don't want to sound like, oh, we're forcing this out, and we want to sound like what we're playing is natural. Is this something that you've thought about when you developed your voice, or is it something that just kind of happened naturally? Can you talk about that for a little bit?
I mean, it's definitely something I've worked on for many years. And the way you just phrased the question there, it makes me think that maybe like at the beginning, I kind of had that, but as we go through the years and the process and get chewed up and spit out by, I mean, it's a hard road that we're on as jazz guitarists and jazz musicians, and the music can get so difficult sometimes. There's so many like obstacles and challenges to be bested. It's definitely hard to maintain that, like you said, the joy and the relaxed kind of natural connection that I think I see. I think I started with that. I think that's the sound and the sort of vibe feel I always admired in jazz musicians, but it can be hard to maintain that when you're trying to like you got mixed meters and it's really fast and you're just trying to survive. I think that in the last few years, I mean, part of it's kind of funny since I've been teaching here like full time, and it's very much a full time job here at UNT. I actually play way more jazz and modern jazz than I did when I was like performing like pretty much full time, and the teaching was the side thing, which is funny because you had to do so many gigs just to make money. I had to take everything I could, whether in New York or New Orleans and now I just, I teach the modern jazz guitar thing all day. And it's given me, I think, a lot more time to think about, what I'm about fundamentally as a player. And yeah, I've kind of, like I said, just in the last few years, it's been, I've noticed that I think part of it too is just I don't care anymore about like about trying to do the things that at this point it's more like I know what I can do. I know what my strengths are. I mean, I'm 44 years old, and some things I'm really good at, other things I'm not, and I've just kind of accepted that, and I don't try to, you know, there's a technical thing that I'm good at, and a technical thing I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I've sort of found what
I
works for
love
me.
hearing. Yeah, no, I love hearing you talk about this. Because when I watch videos of you playing, it just seems like it's just coming out. You're letting
Hmm.
the music come through you, and you're almost saying as if that comes from the letting go of caring so much about what you're doing and let the music flow. But I guess
But of
how do you get
course,
to that point though? Is it just like something you have to tell yourself, like I
well,
need to just enjoy this more?
oh man, it's funny because it sounds like that, but so much thought goes into it, so many years of practice, so many yeah, it's almost like an illusion maybe of making it the more you've worked at it, the more effortless it can sound. So I think some of it too is just a question of that thing like when I was coming up, the old cats would always be like, "Take your time," and I used to hate that. They would always say that and start playing. And now I think I know how to take my time a little bit. I know how to just in a mundane sort of like technical way. I know how to organize what I'm trying to play better. I'm better at phrasing. I'm better at just like I remember I told some students at some point that back when I used to listen to how I sounded, I don't know, 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would feel like I liked it, but I wish I could go in and erase like a certain percentage. Like if I could go in to Pro Tools and just chop it up a little bit, like, man, I wish I had stopped here. And that was kind of the feeling I had, that I was overdoing, like guitar players overplaying. And really it's just a question of like organizing the material. And then, so that's one side of it. And then I've always been like kind of a like sing-songy kind of in my compositions and my playing. That's something that I really like. I like that about part of the reason I got so deep into the early '60s Joe Pass stuff, is for that quality he has of like cantabile, kind of like it's like a vocal thing when he's playing, especially on ballads and stuff like that. And that's just something that's always appealed to me in jazz, is that so I've always strived for that. And the trick is like, how do you do that when you're playing 26/2? How do you do that when you're playing? It depends, depending on the music that you're playing, it can be very, very difficult. And the
Yeah,
people
I
you're
mean,
playing
you're
with.
talking, and I love that thing about your videos too, is that,
Mhm,
you really as you go through certain standards, you explain how you think about it. And the truth is,
mhm,
we have to think about these, the
uh-huh.
certain things that work to get from point A to point B. So when I watch you explaining it, how you do it, like to the camera, is that how you kind of think about it? Like if you're working it out by yourself, or is it a little different?
Yeah, I mean, those videos, I really enjoy doing them. They've been a lot of fun. And it's funny that you say that, because I feel like, I don't get a ton of comments, but I feel like I get two categories of comments. One is like what you just said, people like it. Another one is like, this is good, but I wish you wouldn't talk so much. I wish you'd skip like the first 5 or 6 minutes. I'm kind of like explaining my history with these songs, because they don't just like, I'm not sight reading them. I've played these tunes since, in my case, like a lot of them since I was 14, 15 years old, or even earlier. So I have like deep, profound relationships with these tunes, and I've played them in all times of my life, and I've thought about how to play over them for sometimes 30 years. So that's a lot of time, especially if and I've been at it for that long, like full time,
Unquestionably.
obsessively, like jazz musicians, just kind of like living and dying by these songs. So yeah, when I talk in the camera, it's similar to, I try to make it. I mean, what I enjoy about it is no one edits me. I can just, it's my thing. So that's kind of how I think. It's pretty genuine, how I think about the songs. And also, I really enjoy doing those videos. It kind of keeps me, especially, the part where I play on it. I feel like it kind of keeps me in shape to like going in the studio and stuff like that. The idea that you push record and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll do a couple takes, but it's so that way it's a very similar process to just being able to make it happen on when the, like I told a student in the jury the other day, really all we have as musicians is somebody goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's you, and that's
Yeah,
all there is, really. I mean,
absolutely. And I also really enjoyed how I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you wouldn't have taken you're saying that you have to, your jazz guitar teaching, that's your full-time job essentially. You're
yeah.
playing with the students, and playing
Hmm.
this music all the time with them. I'm assuming in a duet setting.
Yeah.
That being said, I love playing this music. I mean, to be
Me too.
honest, the most fun I have is just playing alone when nobody's there.
Hmm.
So, I would imagine, do you have like a similar look at that when you're playing with the students? Like you just love the music so much, you're okay with it at this point just to be in playing with them? Or do you ever long for another type of, musical outlet that you could, you know, have right now, because this job is definitely demanding, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, yeah, it's the way my life and career has gone. I have two kids. I have like a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old boy. I'm married. I got a house and all that. And I think that if I were, I mean, not that there's a ton of like modern jazz guitar road gigs around, but if I had somehow come upon one, I don't know if that would have really fulfilled me. I don't know that it's possible to have both of those things, and something's got to give, and I feel like that in my life now. Like I play a lot of gigs here in the DFW area, and mostly I do it for the money, and I don't have any I don't feel bad about saying that. And I think it's good, to make money playing music. Like tonight, I'm going to go play at a art museum in Fort Worth with a friend of mine, with a great tenor player named Shelly Carroll, one of the best tenor players in Texas. Great band, but we're going to play some Christmas stuff, the type of gig, and make some money and come home. And I'm satisfied uh, doing this, teaching. I think what keeps me satisfied is the music I'm playing. I'm always sort of doing what I'm good at. No, I'm not playing, and not to judge this kind of music, but I'm not good at playing like rock gigs. I love rock music, but I never developed that skill. I don't like cover bands and things like that. I never have, I have a Benedetto, and that's like
I've been fired from
my
every cover band I've been
yeah.
in.
I mean, I respect people that can do it well, you know what I mean? But I would not be happy doing that. And, I'm still playing guitar solos, and I play solo gigs. And I enjoy what I'm doing. And I maintain projects like, this new record is a drummer friend of mine from Tokyo, who and I've done tours in Japan. And I'm going to go to Brazil over Christmas and play with a band that I play with down there. And I'll do smalls in February, and so I still do things, but it's not like I said. I'm teaching. The semester is the semester, and
What day are you going to be there in February?
Smalls Jazz Club. It's February. I'm gonna look it up real quick because actually my friend from Tokyo, he's coming in, Ko, and we're gonna play the tunes from the new record, and then he's gonna come down to Texas after that, and we're gonna play. I believe it's the 4th. Yeah, February 4th,
It's my
Tuesday,
brother's
February
birthday.
4th.
I'll see it.
Okay, yeah.
It's
Bring him
also
in. Hey,
it's
bro.
it's Rosa Parks' birthday that day too.
Oh
Just a fun
wow. Oh
fact.
man.
Yeah.
Dang.
So
Okay, that's heavy.
I'll try to make it out if I'm not working or anything.
Yeah, bring your brother. I got a birthday present for you, bro.
He's
Well,
not a
like so.
musician.
So I try to maintain those things as much as I can, but clearly, like the way my career has gone is, I'm like jazz dad. I'm taking my kid to hockey all the time. That's what he plays. So it's like, I'm a very bourgeois, my lifestyle, and I like it, and I still play the music, and I like doing those videos. I'm recording for Sunnyside. I've tried to cultivate what I have, and I'm very content with where I
Do
am.
you think about, you teach at North Texas.
Hmm.
Do you think about its vast history and high status in the jazz world when you're there? Is it something that comes into your thoughts when you go there? Because maybe does it make you think like I have to? This is like one of the great universities. I need to set the bar high.
Well, yeah, and I'm part of that history because I did my undergrad here, like 98 to 2001, and I took over for, my teacher Fred Hamilton, who retired. So I'm actually only the third guitar teacher they've ever had here because they had
Oh
Jack
wow,
Peterson,
Jack
who's
Peterson, right?
yeah, he's retired in Florida. He's still, playing, and I don't think he's teaching anymore. And then Fred Hamilton took over, and Fred's retired. He lives like around the corner, and me. So yeah, definitely. I'm like I said. I mean, I did my undergrad here, so most of the teachers that I worked with are retired now, except for my office neighbor here on the other side of that wall, Lynn Seaton, great bass player. I think he's one of the only ones that Rosanna Eckert, a vocalist. There's a couple, but everybody else, the faculty is all turned over. And I feel a real connection with it, and sort of a respect, and all the things like the legacy and all that. I think about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, when you think about like Jack Peterson, the man who taught John Abercrombie, and
Hmm.
you're there filling in that role, it's got to be a really cool feeling, I would say. So it's good to hear that
Yeah.
you look at it that way.
No, it's a lot of. I mean, and like I said, I think it was easier for me too because I went here, and also because Fred Hamilton had everything working so well when I took over. It wasn't like I had to build. The other side of it is you don't have to build it from the ground up. You kind of step in with a machine that's rolling pretty well, and I'm going to knock on wood, but we always have good enrollment and stuff like that. So I know a lot of people that go into this have a whole host of other. I mean, really, our problem is sometimes we have too many students. That's like the best problem you could have. Like, but a lot of places it's really hard to just maintain the program, and you have to worry about that all the time. And I'm gonna knock on wood one more time, but because Fred did such a good job, I was able to come in and just try not to mess it up, kind of.
Yeah, no, that's so great to hear. I'd like to ask you a question about, I know it's such a cliche, but as a fellow guitar player and someone who admires your playing, what recordings are you still going back to and listening to this day that are exciting you, the way they did when you were younger, let's say?
Yeah, sure. I mean, what I do now, and I tell the students this, and it's true. I have like I finally got like a turntable, record player, and so I've picked up a bunch of just LPs, usually at the in the bargain bins, and just over the years, and I just love the sound of, and I mean literally the sound of that sort of classic late 50s, early 60s, all those records like I really love all those Milt Jackson meets so and so, like Bags meets Wes and Bags and Train. I have some of those on vinyl. I mean, I go back to me still for Django. Joe Pass is like a perfect album for me, and I go back to that again for that style, like you were describing earlier, that melodic thing and the ease of playing and the vocal style. I listen to that a lot. It's funny. I mean, I go back to all the stuff I listened to when I was in my late teens and early 20s. All this, sometimes modern stuff too. Some early like Rosenwinkel stuff that was very important to me. Peter Bernstein, um, and because I'm teaching certain songs so much, I teach a graduate improv class, so that repertoire, I change it up, but I'm always listening to stuff like Ellington stuff with Strayhorn tunes, and you know classic Benny Golson tunes, and just going back to those. But really, to me, the sonically too, I really like the other day just putting on Breezin' on an LP, and just in my house, that record sounds so amazing. Just the sound, it comes out, and you're like, oh my god, and it's you can't help it. You start grooving to it, and I mean, I guess having made a bunch of records, I appreciate how the achievement of just a great sounding album, whether it's like was cutting edge or whether it got this kind of review at the time. But yeah, I put that stuff on, and occasionally, I'll put on like it's not always jazz, but I'm really into the LP thing right now, just because I miss the. I don't really like listening to music on the computer. I do that for or streaming things. I do it for class because I need to, but when I actually want to listen to music, I like the ritual of. And the LP is kind of fun because I didn't have LPs growing up. I was always, CDs and tapes really before that. But I like taking
Cassette
it out.
tapes.
Yeah, exactly. Taking it out of that. My first jazz stuff, I had cassettes of like a Love Supreme, and
Oh, really?
oh yeah, I had the
That's awesome.
I bought a Love Supreme because at the time I was into like concept albums like rock, like Queensryche and stuff, and I saw,
Oh, I saw
uh,
Queensryche. I've seen him play before.
me too, and
Queensryche and Fate's Warning.
oh bro, yeah, yeah, but I saw like Love Supreme had four parts, and I was like, it's a jazz concept album,
Yeah.
and that's why I bought it. Anyway, that was a long time ago, but yeah, so I just enjoy the ritual of the LP, and I like that classic period just for the sonic experience. Those records sound so good, and I'm really into the Milt Jackson collaboration records in the '50s. I'll put
No,
those stuff
that's
on.
great. That's great. You've had the opportunity to work with so many tremendous players. I mean,
Mhm.
over the years, and I'm sure out of all the performances you've done, who that you played with made you almost like shift your playing a little bit? Because everyone is,
Oh
it's jazz is collaborative, but like who really like made you, their energy just like took you in another direction?
yeah, yeah. That's an easy one because for me it was getting to play. I did one gig with the Brian Blade Fellowship Band, and this was like I remember it was April 15th, 2009. And I remember, like, I had this opportunity because I guess Rosenwinkel wasn't with the band, and they were doing stuff from Seasons of Change at Lincoln Center, and I was practicing. I was trying to like memorize everything and get. I hadn't been performing with people on that level, really. Like that opportunity when it comes, and it's big shoes to fill, and you're anyway. I remember doing the gig, and like I didn't mess it up, but I remember thinking like when it was time for my solo, the band was I guess I had been in situations where everything was very combative, like you play all your stuff and I'll play all my stuff, and this person over here is going to play all their stuff, and it's like, let's just do all our stuff, and it's almost like a wrestling match or something. But I remember in that band, it was like time for my solo, and all of a sudden, I got the sense like, okay, they're about to provide like the greatest accompaniment in the world for me, and I was like, well, what am I bringing to the table for them to accompany?
You thought this before you were about to.
Yeah, like
Wow.
at the moment, like what was happening, and I remember thinking like, I don't have enough, just of me fully. I'm not when you're in that situation. I wasn't bringing enough to the table as Davy Mooney. Like I had shed the music, I knew the chord changes, but and that's because you're playing with people on that level.
Do you
I
think
was
it's because
like,
you admire Kurt Rosenwinkel? Maybe that was part, might have been part of it too, a little
I
bit.
just
But
don't think I was like 29. I don't think I had enough confidence or enough just concept together. And like part of what I was saying earlier, like that not caring, like this is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to sound like. And it was 15 something years ago. Or I think that, in a certain sense, I was kind of like precocious, but I also feel like I'm a late bloomer in that sense of just getting to just be like, this is what I'm about. And I'm not going to try to do this and do that.
yeah,
And
not caring is
like,
a totally other animal in itself.
yeah.
It's.
Like I said, like I don't think I messed up the gig, but when you're up there with the best, some of the best players in the world of all time, you kind
Definitely.
of like you realize what you need to bring to the table, and it's not about the chops you need to bring or this or that. It's like what do you have? They're going to elevate with their amazing musicality what you do, so you better come with something that's worthy of that elevation. And so from that day forth, I started thinking more about that, and that kind of became the goal. Was like I really have to. You don't want to think about okay, well I played this gig with this person and they're gonna get lost in the form here, or this person's gonna play too loud, and so whatever, I don't care. I'll just get through the gig, or I got to be thinking like okay, what if I'm on stage with these people again, and everything that they bring is going to be perfect and in the sense like supportive and will elevate what I do. You know what I mean? Rather than thinking like, this is going to be a piece
No,
of
but I love
garbage.
how honest you're being about it because I think that's what we need in this
Well,
field.
yeah, when you're when you're on stage in that situation, you better be honest because, like I said, it's that one, two, three, four spotlights on you, and like what do you bring into the table? And there's no, sometimes in jazz when we play with our friends, we play with students, it's that question of like, okay, what's messed up? What do we have to fix? What's wrong? And you sort of get in that mentality, or you're in a situation playing with a band where you're like, man, this dude like. But then maybe you should think about what if everything is ideal? Because sometimes it is. What are you bringing to the table? So
Yeah.
that was very that helped me kind of. And again, it's not like the next day I was like, okay, got this. Now it'll be perfect next time. But that sort of became the goal for me when I every time I play, think about it that way.
Yeah, and you're talking about finding your own voice, which is
Uh-huh.
something every jazz musician they want to do. I would imagine it's even more confusing now in 2024 with all the material that's out there, X, Y, and Z, and all the stuff you can get like that. Um,
Yeah, I don't know how anybody does it. Although, I've kind of written about this, have some books because I definitely wrestle with it because I teach an improv class, and just the contradiction, right? Of you want to sound like yourself, but I mean, you kind of sound like yourself at the beginning, but then there are these annoying things called chord changes, where you have to
yeah.
sound like yourself in a context where the only way you're going to be able to play a certain song is by checking out what someone else did. So there's no way around that too. So you have to copy other people and sound like yourself. And
Yeah,
how does
I
that
think
happen?
I think finding your voice is like that we could do another podcast in the future about that if
Yeah,
you
hard.
want to. But that being said, can we talk a little bit about some of the things that were vital for you in terms of
Hmm.
finding your own voice? Like maybe just like some little small ideas. Like for me, I think like if I try to think about like I have to like write my own stuff down, like my own
Mm,
lines, like my own
okay.
4 bar phrases, 8 bar phrases on a piece of paper and make them go up and go down, like
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a little mysterious, and I'll say this, some of it. It's a funny story. Like when I first came here as an undergrad in like 1998, I'm from New Orleans, and I studied and really modeled myself after a guitar player named Steve Mazikowski, who some people know and some people don't know. And he recorded Blue Note in the 90s, and but he taught at the University of New Orleans. So I came with like a really, really clear, like in New Orleans, people would be like, he sounds like Mazikowski. That's like the young Mazikowski wannabe. But in UNC, seriously, in New Orleans, they would, and in UNC, people were like, wow, I've never heard anything like that.
Oh wow.
And then one time I remember a friend of mine came into my dorm room, and I was listening to this Mazikowski CD, and he was like, wait a second. Because he'd never heard it before. Because nowadays everything is, out there. And so you can't even, I mean, even if you wanted to try to do this, like find somebody that no one's heard and copy that so you sounded like yourself, or you sounded like something they'd never heard before, I don't think that was possible. And for me, it was just like, that was who I wanted to sound like. That was my, the local big dog that
You
I was
think a
trying to
part of it
sound
is you have to have someone that you look up to and on that level and maybe,
I mean,
take a
what it
similar.
was, I was trying to learn how to play jazz, and he had figured it out, and I could sit and watch him. And if there was any question or concern or problem I had with anything, I would just like, oh, that's how you do it.
Got it,
And
got
I
it.
could literally like see it, like, oh, okay. And I had enough facility where I couldn't play everything like him, but so it was hard not to. And I kind of felt the same way about Rosenwinkel later on, where I would sort of make myself stop buying his records just because it felt like the solution that he had for everything was like the best one. And like, why would I do it any other way when I heard certain things that he did? So I was like, that's like scary. I better not like
My
actually
father is
listen.
like he's like a big rock guy. Like he
Hmm.
didn't understand when I wanted to like learn how to play jazz. And then
Mm.
like I took him to see Kurt Rosenwinkel when I was a teenager. And then like I think his like was just like, okay, this is not what I thought it was gonna be. So,
Yeah,
when
no,
he
it's
said,
amazing, and it is dangerous in a certain way too, because it's hard not to just be like that. Yes, that's. I
yeah,
mean, I think it was the same thing with Charlie Parker. Not to like, but I mean, how could you play if you were a saxophone player or a jazz player after that came out? How could you be like, all right, that's cool, but I'm going to keep doing this? Like certain people are trained. A lot of instrumentalists. I mean, I think for piano players like Meldau and Keith Jarrett and maybe certain Herbie. It's like, how do you not have that influence you? Although the your own sound thing, I remember having a conversation with John Ellis, who I play with a lot, a tenor player, and he had a funny take on it. He was like, "It's really easy to come up with a new sound. You just take two people that no one's ever combined before, and you combine them together."
oh,
So, in a certain extent, to a certain degree, maybe the Rosenmigel thing is like, I don't know, Alan Holdsworth and Bud Powell. Like if you put, I don't know, or something like that, like a really deep bebop thing with some chops from the metal realm, and no one had ever done that particular combination, and so then it sounds unique, mixed with like great composition. Really, I think
sure. No,
in
that's a really
harmonies
interesting
too.
point to think about it that way. And this is such a fun conversation.
Yeah.
This is a fun conversation to have with you. Where can everybody find you in terms of website and stuff? Do you want anything you want to share with
Yeah.
us?
Yeah, I don't have a website. I used to have one, but it just got to be too much to maintain, like the davymooney.com type thing. But I'm on, YouTube is Davy Mooney Music. I have a lot of videos and stuff of me playing. Sunnyside Records. I actually have all my Sunnyside stuff. They have like a Bandcamp page for each artist that they do. So I have like Davy Mooney Bandcamp, whatever it is, Bandcamp dot, and it's got all the records. The new one's available for pre-order, and you can listen to a tune. Um, I got Instagram and Facebook. I don't mess with Facebook that much. I share my Instagram stuff to Facebook, and that's about it. I don't do TikTok.
Don't
I'm
waste
not
your
on.
time. It's really
I'm
not.
not on Twitter too much. I had to draw the line somewhere, because they keep me pretty busy over here, and I have to update everything. So I did you know, I actually a couple weeks ago I thought about getting the website going, and I started for about like half an hour, and I just didn't. There's only so much energy, and I was like, what's the point? Because when people go on, I'm very easy to find. Davey
Yeah,
Mooney
there's
Music.
24 hours in a day. You got to allocate your time the
If
way
you
it should
Google
be.
my name, Davey Mooney Jazz Guitar, it's all gonna. It should come up pretty quickly. And the books, Mel Bay, I have a couple books.
Oh,
I'm working
sorry.
on a new one.
What were you saying? Sorry about that.
No, I was saying I have like my little merchandise stand up here with all my stuff. So I have a couple books from Mel Bay. So, you can find that stuff at melbay.com or Amazon. And yeah, the records from Sunnyside, it's all up there, the YouTube channel. I try to stay on it, as much as I can.
No, awesome. This has been great.